All right, 111 folks. So we were talking about chapter 3 in unit 2, talking about India, talking about beliefs, talking about the Hindu beliefs and the Vedic religions that come in. In the very beginning, those religions are going to be more oral tradition. We start looking at things like the Rig Veda, which is one of those huge Vedic texts along the way, and the prayers and the practices that come with it are originally oral, but eventually you're going to get them written down. Much of it gets written down in Sanskrit, which is also interesting because that's one of the languages you see some of the biblical texts written in. But we go ahead and we get this. And in the early Vedic ages, since the priests control the language, they control the prayers. All this is oral tradition. They very much control the religion, and so that's huge. But as it gets written down, then what we start to do is see a change when we get to a text called the Upanishads. The Upanishads are kind of interesting because up to this point, the priests have controlled the relationship between the gods and between the people, and it's the ritual and the prayers conducted by the priests that will go ahead and conduct the actions of the gods themselves. With the Upanishads, we're going to see a change, and the Upanishads is going to be more about an interaction of the gods with the people, not the gods with the priests, but the gods with the people. And so you see the appearance of people, of beings like Krishna come in and interacting with, just regular everyday figures, or in this case, we start talking about the Kshatriyas, the kings and the princes and things. It reacts, it's a change in the way that the religion is constructed, and so we see the birth of some new ideals, and the birth of those new ideals pops up in cases like the Mahavira or the Jina, who is going to introduce the religion of Jainism. And Jainism is important because it takes a little bit of a page from Hindu and the idea that they're still trying to achieve moksha. But the thing about moksha is that the Jainists believe that it doesn't need to take several lifetimes, that it can indeed be done in one lifetime. And so the idea of Jainism is, number one, there are lay Jainists. There are people just like lay Christians who are Christian in name, Christian in some of the practices, but not all the practice. Lay Jainists believe that they can achieve moksha. Lay Jainists believe in the structure, but they're not always practicing. Very often, lay Jainists own property, own businesses, and things like that they can help support the practicing Jainists a little bit later on. Because what a true Jainist will do, a practicing Jainist will go ahead and give up everything, give up all worldly goods. They're going to give up all worldly goods and pursue moksha. And the idea being is that if you give up everything and are dependent on those around you, that, well, number one, what's going to happen is it's going to increase your suffering. And in the process of increased suffering, you're going to be generating a bit more positive karma. But also they're going to take to heart the ideal of ahimsa, do no harm, and work to actually not harm anything themselves. So what they're going to do is they're going to wander. This is where you get the ascetic tradition for many monks that pop up in this area at this particular point, because they're giving up all worldly goods, seeking knowledge. And so full-time seeking knowledge, full-time struggling, full-time suffering in pursuit of that knowledge, until eventually that they're going to be released from this world and hopefully achieve moksha, not in several lifetimes, but in one. Now, there's a lot of other precedents that go with that, but keep in mind that it's a lot to do with suffering and with giving up all worldly goods in this process, and that it takes quite a bit of time, because there's another religion built on this precept, and that's going to be Buddhism. Because we start off with Siddhartha Gautama, and Siddhartha Gautama is going to be the Buddha. What's important is that when his mother is pregnant with him, and she is going to have an epiphany, she's going to have a vision that while she's sleeping, a white elephant blossoms forth from her side, emerges from her side, and she's going to talk to her husband. They're going to address the priest, and the priest is going to say that it's a portent, it's a foretelling, and the foretelling tells that he is going to be a great religious leader, that he is going to be somebody that people look at. And the father is going to find out exactly why, and they're going to say, listen, in growing up, he's going to see these 4 signs, and when these 4 signs come true, then we know that he is indeed going to be a great religious leader. Well, Dad doesn't necessarily want him to be a religious leader as much as he wants him to take over the family position, because Dad is Kshatriya. He is a prince or a chieftain, and he wants his son to take over as that. So he's going to guide him through a sheltered life. And the sheltered life, literally growing up in the family compound, growing up in the palace grounds, keeping him from seeing these signs. And he's going to grow up, he's going to get married, he's going to have kids without ever seeing these 4 signs. But Dad can only cheat fate so long, because eventually he's going to see them. He is going to meet an old man. He's going to meet a sick man. He is going to encounter a dead man. And then he's going to encounter an ascetic. That ascetic is going to be perhaps a Jainist who is pursuing moksha. And he's going to encounter all these things in a short while, and that's going to change his vision, his idea. He's going to see this ascetic. He's going to see this suffering. He's going to see this aging. He's going to see this illness and start to question himself. When the ascetic shows up, the ascetic is one of those people that's imbued with the energy, with the serenity, with everything. And he's going to go, listen, this man has nothing, and yet he is happy, and yet I have everything, and I'm unhappy. I want to, know what he knows. And he's going to give up everything and pursue moksha. He's going to become a Jainist, give up everything, and leave town, leave the wife, leave the children behind, and pursue this goal of moksha. It's interesting because he's going to go through intense suffering. He's going to go through hunger. He's going to go through all the things that the Jainists do indeed go for, even to the point that his family tries to retrieve him, tries to pull him back. And at one point, his suffering is going to be so bad that he's just going to, after leaving the Ganges, he's going to sit down against a tree, and a kind soul will give him a bowl of soup as he sits back against the Bodhi tree, and he's going to go ahead and eat his stew and fall asleep. And while he's asleep, he's going to go have an epiphany. That epiphany is going to be nirvana. All right, nirvana. That would be the Buddhist version of moksha. The idea being that this nirvana, this enlightenment, shows him, it's that pursuit of knowledge that he's looking for. It shows him the interconnectedness of everything. It shows him, about moksha. It shows him about the web of all things. And then what he will do is he will decide to stay and teach others. Because you depending on which version you believe in, it gives him the option of leaving and achieving moksha and adjoining that oneness and adjoining the greater beings, or in staying to teach. And he stays to teach. And his epiphany, his enlightenment, his nirvana is going to say, oh, listen, I have this figured out. And he has it figured out, in that there is indeed some things that people need to know. First things he says is, look, nirvana is possible. This is what it is. And there is a way to achieve it, but you have to know certain things. And so he's going to point out the Four Noble Truths, and he is going to point out the Eightfold Path. The Four Noble Truths are significant because this is, listen, you have to accept these truths. If you accept that life is suffering, okay, that's just the way it is. Life is suffering. Okay. The second noble truth is simple. We suffer because we desire, we want. So therefore we suffer. The third noble truth is that our suffering can be extinguished. We can extinguish this desire. We can extinguish this want, this desire that we have. And the fourth noble truth is it can be extinguished by following the Eightfold Path. And the Eightfold Path, he's going to lay out the positions of right. He's going to say, listen, if you have the right view, the right resolve, the right speech, you follow the right actions, the right livelihood, you put forth the right effort, the right mindfulness, the right concentration, then you can achieve what you need to do in the way of escaping this life and achieving this nirvana. And that's going to be huge. And so he sets this out for people to learn. I'm going to leave you here, and I'm going to go ahead and pick up a little bit more.